Yeah, man, I've been good. I've been all right, you know. I suppose we'll talk about the elephant in the room straight away, but we'll try to just keep on it just for a teeny bit of time.
Sure. Yeah.
It's been weird. I've adjusted to it. I've been off. I've not worked. This is the longest I've not worked, and it's been about 9 weeks in the UK. I did a tattoo on a Sunday, and then on the Monday, our Prime Minister was like, done. You know, he was just
Yeah.
like, you know, full lockdown. How's it been for you? How long's it been for you?
Um, it's been, I honestly have lost track, but I did do a tattoo almost 2 weeks ago. I worked on a good client of mine for like 5 or 6 hours or something who flew in from Indiana. But apart from that, I haven't tattooed at all. I had I typically take a trip to the Midwest and the East Coast at this exact same time every year, and
Oh,
it
no
just,
way.
dude, I had to cancel it all.
Oh,
Everything is just so up in the air, and yeah, it's been kind of a nightmare, And then in the States, we have this bizarre mix of people that are taking it very seriously, and then people that aren't. I have the same thing with my clients as well. Like some of my clients are like, it seems like they're a little frustrated with me about because I am taking it seriously. You know what I mean? So yeah.
yeah, it's a very difficult situation, isn't it? I think just in general, like, I think for me, when it all kicked off, I was like, you know, I listened to podcasts and there was a few experts on various different platforms, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't really feel like it was serious, and then gradually over time I started thinking it was, and then that was like literally on the Sunday when I did a hand tattoo, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm at full time with my little boy. I see my daughter half the time. I've got to stay at home. I just can't do this. This is not right. And the more I learned about viruses, because I think the whole world has learned a shit ton about viruses just recently, if they didn't already. And I just like, I thought, right, I can't do it. Anyway, it's been serious. And for me, it's still serious. I think we've learned a lot about it. And I don't know. It's hard to stay like this. Like the whole world can't stay like this. It's got to find a way out of it somehow. And I think that's what they're trying to do. What's it like with you? Have they told you any kind of plan?
No. So I mean you know, so how it seems to be is that Arizona as a state, which is where I live, they've opened up everything and it's okay, where everybody's supposed to be practicing, say, social distancing, wearing masks, these types of things, but like not it's a train wreck with that. So it's kind of more of a personal thing, like if you feel comfortable working and doing these things, like you can or whatever. But I think that, like, to your point, it's a new kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's an airborne disease, virus, not something that we're used to. Like even us as tattooers who have more, training than the average person, we're used to dealing with bloodborne contaminants or surface contaminants that we're comfortable on how to handle it. This is something new.
Yeah.
Um, I've actually talked to Guy quite a bit about different things, and I'm kind of like, you know, he's done a lot to like try to educate like the tattoo community, at least stateside, about how we can progress forward as a community. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, he was my first stop on my
Yeah.
trip. So like when the same as you, like when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, like, yeah, it's not that serious. I'm not that worried about it. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then as things started to progress, I was like, man, this is starting to get really serious. And
For
then,
sure.
I called him and I was like, hey man, like I'm supposed to come to the house in like, whatever, a couple of weeks. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, what are you thinking? And his tone was very like, we need to take this seriously. I think we need to cancel this. We need to put this on the back burner. And, from that moment forward, I guess seeing how somebody I admire and look up to and respect his opinion, how seriously he was taking it, made me kind of go, maybe I'm being a little bit reckless with my, thoughts on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yes, 100%. I've seen as well how much I spoke about this with Marcus the other day. He does so much for the tattoo community in general. And then just to see him again with this come forward with an action plan and, a guide for people. Derb Morrison as well, he's come forward with, just recently I watched him, he did a video of a tour of the Red Tree Tattoo Gallery where he tattoos from. And just seeing I've taken the way he's done it with his studio. I've taken quite a lot from that. I don't know how they're going to implement it in the UK. We will find out more with the implications of what they're going to put in place. But I definitely, like you say, though, I've heard a lot of tattoo artists over here say we are the most, hygienic of the cosmetic kind of industry, and it's like, yeah, this means nothing though, like this isn't a bloodborne
Right.
pathogen. This is airborne.
Mm-hmm.
We're breathing on people. It doesn't matter if we don't tattoo foots all the time, we don't tattoo feet all the time, they're not that far away, we're up close with people. So it gets to the point where you've got to kind of, I don't know, like I knew straight away when they said it was airborne, and it was like, oh man. And then I heard people saying that, it was like, yeah, but it means nothing, we're going to have to stop. And then it just begs the question, like, how do we get back? And that's what's good about seeing people come forward with plans of how we're going to get back. We're going to have to wear masks. We're going to, the procedures that we're going to have to go through to make it possible to get back to work, because our government is doing myself a relatively good job of funding us while we are off. Like I hear you got like I'm sure you got a stimulus check. But over here, they gave small businesses like a grant. So my shop got £10,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is unbelievable. And then they also did like a little another scheme where if you were self-employed, you put forward your case for it, and they would look at your past 3 years of tax returns, and they would calculate all that up and give you a percentage, 80% of basically what you'd have earned in 3 months. So I think I got like an extra £2,500 or something like that. It's got to the point where I'm kind of, with like Maslow's hierarchy of need. I don't need anything. I just need food. And
Sure.
if anything, like that's a shit ton of money to put on my tax bill to think, right, my God, my tax bill is going to be huge at the end of this year, because like I've been having to buy things to which is not a bad thing, like buy things for the studio. We're going to get the studio done up in the next few weeks, and bought a shit ton of new inks, etc., all this kind of stuff, just to get ready to go back again and to put money up against the money that I've kind of not earned. But they've helped us out quite a lot. How's it been with you guys?
Well, I'm not a business owner, so
Right.
I work in a studio, so I don't know on that end of it. I know that everybody got uh, a stimulus check.
Yeah.
I think it was like $1,200 or something. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, but um, and yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's kind of doing the best that they can.
Mm.
The figures are pretty staggering for the United States. I know the United States it's a big country, especially like relative to like all the smaller countries in Europe. We're just a massive country, so it makes sense that our numbers would be high, but
Yeah.
they're really high.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, not to get political, but it seems to be that like Americans in a way are like they're sick of it, so they just decided it didn't exist anymore,
Yeah, it seemed that
which
way.
is terrifying.
I think as
um,
well, like, oh gosh, I think Trump as well. He seems to have, the way I see it, and we won't talk much more on COVID, but the way I see it with Trump is he kind of everything seemed to, like, nobody really wanted him. Well, I don't know what happened, but he ended up in office anyway. And then he seemed to be doing not too much of a bad job. It wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't going too bad. He was, he was doing okay with the economy, maybe. It's hard to judge. But then this has happened on his watch. One of the worst things to ever happen to the whole
Yeah.
world. And he's like, oh, fuck. Um, uh, Oh no, and you can kind of see he's just completely in denial, like that and he has not been able to keep up with this daily press conference. He's losing his shit. He just doesn't seem to be keeping it up very well. Reporters, they're gonna ask horrible questions, and he's just straight out just calling them out. The way he's dealing with it's very different to how really you would imagine a president should deal with it. But he's not really president material. The way he is, he's a very
Yeah.
smart businessman. So you can see the way he answers questions. It's like, oh, dude, no,
Yeah.
it's hard,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It is. I mean, look, like it, no matter who you are, like no matter what country you're the leader of, like this is a horrible time to be a leader. You know what I mean? With all this coming, this has affected the entire world. So,
Yeah,
no one's having an easy go of it, right?
no,
But I think that this is where, leadership should shine. This is where you should, like, this is your moment to be like, do the right thing for for your country, you know what I mean, and what's best for the people, and yeah, denial's not the best way to go. I think
no.
that fact and science is probably the better route.
Yeah, definitely. But to a certain degree as well, like I love the because he set the whole world on fire in a certain sense when he said, like I remember going to sleep and then wake up the next morning and he came out with a statement of like directly telling people to, like inject disinfectant into them. And it was
Oh god,
like
yeah, dude.
he kind of said it and he didn't, but like that they're gonna run with it, and it's just like, and I can imagine himself like, oh, oh no, but but it is what it is, and hopefully I feel like slowly we're going to move away from it, but it scares me a little bit, the second wave. I just hope that we are much more capable to deal with this second wave. I hope it's not going to be as intense as you can imagine. It's going to be just judging on past flus and pandemics and things, like, because the economy is already the worst it's ever been for a long time. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to work and then have to stop again, I bet that felt good to tattoo though, didn't it? Because I miss it.
Dude, it was awesome. Like I haven't that's the longest I've ever been away from tattooing.
Sure.
And I mean, I kept myself busy with,
Hmm.
painting projects and, and stuff like that. And, but yeah, it's not the same. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, like tattooing is my favorite medium. So
For sure.
yeah, and I think in the last regard, like to COVID or whatever, think I don't think this is ever going away. I think that this is something I like. There was a time when people thought it was absurd to wear gloves, right? Tattooers,
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I think that this is just kind of like that next step where, like, there's going to be people that are like, it's absurd to wear a mask, but 10 years from now, you're going to be like, hey, everybody wears masks. What are you talking about? That's just like what you do,
For sure. For
But
sure. You look at the Asian like side of the world, and they generally wear masks quite a lot of the time anyway. And not only that, they like it's if you're feeling ill, in general, you should be wearing a mask anyway. It's so weird. We've just been. It's what's weird about it for me is it didn't seem 2 seconds ago. Everything seemed completely normal, and now it's just completely been turned upside down, and that is not coming back ever, probably, like for a long time, if ever. And it doesn't feel like 2 seconds ago, but it's slowly slipping away, and we're gonna have to evolve into a different way of existing and stuff. And I always used to look at people who did tattoos with masks on. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing a mask?
right, yeah, yeah.
you know, or you'd see like people doing their nails in the nail salon and they've got like the mask on, and I was just like, what? I would never do that, you know. And then now you're like, oh, I've got to do that, you know. But you know, it is what it is. I think it will be. I think we'll come out of it okay. I know it's hard saying that because people are dying, but you know, like
Yeah.
I was like looking at statistics, and it's crazy how many people die every day anyway, and just what they die from, and all this kind of stuff. Stuff I've done in this lockdown is sent me like looking down little rabbit holes of everything with all the spare time I've got, you know. Um,
Sure.
but dude, anyway, let's pull away. Man, it's been ages as well since I last seen you. Like the last time I
Yeah.
saw you, you tattooed me, and I was racking my brain because it's been so long. And the last time I saw you was in Jerry Carnelli's shop,
Mm.
and I think the time before that, they've moved studios and everything now, but I think it was in Rose Price's studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did it. We did a piece on my leg, and it feels like so long ago, man, and so much has happened in between.
For
Um,
sure.
I was gonna ask you,
Did you have
like,
kids then?
y-
You didn't have
um,
kids. Did you have kids?
no, I didn't. No, we wasn't
Okay.
long, it
Yeah.
wasn't long until Isla was nearly there, though. My little girl,
Oh, okay.
she's just turned 7. So
Oh, wow. Dude, that's awesome.
yeah, it's
Fun
crazy.
age, I hear.
Yeah, it is. She's so cool and everything. And I've got a little boy, Felix, and
All
uh,
right.
he's 4, and he's cool as well. He's amazing. But you used to come over quite a bit. You did quite a bit of time in Scotland, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did 2 years back to back. I came over and I tried to do a month in each country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that twice. And then the second year, I branched out and went over to France.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and then I had intentions of like kind of like trying to hit more of um, Western Europe, Germany and Italy and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I ended up
Life gets in
kind
the
of
way.
getting, yeah, like things changed, and so I ended up just, yeah, man, I haven't been back over.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, I was gonna ask you about Scotland because, like, I feel like your name is Scottish. I feel like you got like your.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
right?
My grandfather's from Glasgow or was from Glasgow, but
Wow.
yeah, I've loved every bit of everything over there. Like, I didn't have any bad experiences.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, it was good. Did you get a chance when you were in Scotland to go and do anything? You know, like, or were you just there to work? Did you get to go and see any of the Highlands or anything like
A little bit, yeah. I kind of tried to structure everything where, and I mean, I just tattoo like this in general. Is I see tattooing as a marathon, not a sprint.
that?
So I kind of like I work enough to be comfortable, but I'm not trying to work myself to death. So I took enough time off to like hang out, go see things. Me and my girlfriend at the time, and Marcus McGuire and his wife, and we all went on holiday, some island out there in
Yeah.
Scotland. I don't honestly don't even know where,
Yeah.
but it was cool. When I was in France, the guy I was staying with, Mike, man, he showed me all kinds of stuff in France. It was super cool, man.
Oh,
Yeah, and
cool.
then when I was in Northern Ireland, this dude George, man, he took me everywhere, dude. Like,
That's good.
like, yeah, it was super cool. We got to go like see like Giant's Causeway and all that stuff.
Oh,
Like cool
wow.
shit like that. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's absolutely incredible. That's the stuff. That's the thing about this career, isn't it? Like, it has the full on potential to take you all over the world, and it's so weird. But and especially
absolutely,
because it's like the best job in the world. Well, I know we're both tattoo artists, but it just for me feels like it's the best job in the world. You know, you can take it everywhere with you. You know, it can take you to places that you'd never even imagined. You know, and it's like I don't know. I used to love it, like the prospect of feeling like you could just go and do guest spots here, there, and everywhere. I think kids kind of put a little bit of a dampener on that, a little bit just because you've got to stay in one place quite a lot of the time. But as the kids get older, I can move around with them. But yeah, man, how old?
absolutely. Like, go ahead.
Go on. No, go on. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, like, yeah, man. I mean, and tattooers are so nice and
Yeah.
accommodating. You know what I mean? Like other artists, like I think that, if you compare it to, other people that maybe in their job or in their life, they have the ability to travel or go on holiday or whatever, it's not the same. Like,
Hmm.
so you can go into a guest spot, but I don't know, you get to see the actual culture. That's kind of what I liked about it. And that's why, like, when I came over,
For sure.
like I was trying to spend as much time there as possible, because I didn't want to just like, see the inside of the studio, tattoo a few people, see a restaurant or two in the hotel, and then boop, airport, I'm
Yeah.
out. Like that's not an experience. You know
No,
what I
it's not.
mean?
No, I know
Yeah,
what you mean. It's like, I don't know. That's definitely the best way, especially because you're hanging around with you go to a studio and they're the local people. They're probably the best people to hang around with. Rather than take yourself there and be like, right, what are we gonna do today, babe? We're gonna go here. This is probably the best place. You go to somewhere where they're the local people. They're gonna take you to all the best places that they think they should take you anyway. But
for
you
sure.
know,
Like if you ever come over to the States and you come to Arizona, like I'm gonna take you to, like, you get to avoid all those, like, you know pitfalls that, like, someone that doesn't know where they're at or what they're
exactly.
doing, like, would fall into. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just a million times better, I would imagine.
yeah, for sure. So how long? Like I've been tattooing for 13 years. How long have you been working, man? How long have you been tattooing?
I think it's either 15 or 16. Honestly, like I don't remember, which my memory's shit, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. How did you do it? Did you go the usual route down? Did or like how did you end up getting to the point where that did you do a spate of jobs beforehand and then just fall into that job? How did it happen?
Yeah, no, I I definitely did not go the usual route. I
No,
mean, like people I know that did, seems like they definitely did it the better way. Like they were further along quicker than I was. So I grew up in southern Utah and a little bit in Oregon. My dad worked for the government. He
okay.
worked with ranchers. So he was like, you know, managing people that own livestock and stuff like
Okay,
that. So
yeah.
I grew up in the middle of nowhere, man. Like the
Wow.
town I grew up in was like maybe 200 people.
Wow.
I had to go to middle school and high school. I had to ride the bus an hour and a half each way every day.
Holy
Yeah,
shit. Really?
yeah, dude, it was pretty wild. And looking back on it though, like I definitely see where I got a taste for, like, biomech stuff, was
Yeah.
because, like, all the landscape out there was like red rock, like pitted, crazy formations and stuff. And, you're whatever, 12, 14 years old, staring out the window for 2 hours every day. Like, that's all you see. So I think it made an impression on me, And I used to draw quite a bit when I was younger, but it was mainly like landscapes type stuff, or like kind of like realism, like still life, like portraiture type stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then my first real tattoos that I saw was a friend of mine. His sister was like in the Navy or something,
Okay.
and she would like come home sometimes, and I would see these tattoos on her, and I mean, I thought they were cool, and then I didn't like. I wasn't impressed for the longest time. Like I just kind of thought tattoos were kind of junk, Like
For
I
sure, yeah.
wasn't I wasn't into it. And then in high school, it was like nearing the end of high school, and it's kind of like that time where you have to kind of, you got to pick a lane, you got to pick a trail to go down. And I was interested in art, but I just didn't know. I didn't know where to go with it. You know what I mean? Like, um, I guess I could have gone into like college and done like graphic design or something like that, but I just didn't want to get stuck in an office building. You know what I mean? Like
A
I
hundred
couldn't see
percent.
myself doing that. You know what I mean? And I guess I could have, you know, you know, stayed like working on a ranch and stuff like that, farmer type life, but those guys just don't make a good living, and it's a hard life,
Yeah.
and I saw, somehow I got my hands on a tattoo magazine, and I saw some early work of like Guy Aitchison and like Paul Booth and stuff like that, and it wasn't like the tattoos I saw on my friend's sister. You know what I mean? It was like a
Yeah.
painting on the skin that looked insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my first inkling that like, oh, tattoos can look like that. Like, that's fucking awesome. I want to do shit like that, cuz especially guy stuff, cuz I've always been into like the outdoors and stuff like that. It just sort of like struck a chord in me. And his stuff leans a lot more to that like natural, plants, rocks, these kinds of things. So it really struck a chord. So I tried to figure out how to tattoo. So like I bought like a sketchy kit off the internet, and trying to figure it out, like fucking up my friends and myself a little bit. And then I was like, I'm gonna like give somebody hepatitis or something, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of like put it away. And I had a friend who was going to school down in Texas.
Okay.
And he convinced me to move down there because he said that it was super like there was a bustling tattoo scene down there at the time. He's full of shit, man. He just didn't want to live down there alone. So
Oh no.
I ended up down there with not enough money to get home, is what it ended up being, right? So, but I still had I had all my gear with me, and 1 month it ended up being like I didn't have enough money to cover rent, but like one of his, yeah, dude, but like one of his like classmates or whatever wanted to get tattooed and said he would cover my share of rent for these couple tattoos or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but fuck it, right? So I tattooed this dude. And sometime later or whatever, he happened to be in a tattoo shop, and the people that saw his tattoo were like, where'd you get that? And they're like, oh, tell him if he wants a job to come down. So I came down and talked to him, and man, it was sketchy. Like, it wasn't like how it is now, where, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It just seems so different now. You know what
For
I mean? When I
sure.
talk to like younger tattooers or whatever, or even other people that have apprentices and shit, like, and it was sketchy as shit. And they just like threw me to the wolves. It was just straight tattooing, and I did that for a couple of years. It was, man, I don't know. Like it was, I appreciate like where I came from. You know what I mean? It was a super humbling, and I think about it all the time. Like that's what I had to do to get my foot in the door. But it was like, man, I worked the night shift. I worked from 7 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning tattooing. And you can
Oh
imagine the type of people that get tattooed at those hours. Like, not cool, man. Like,
no.
dangerous. And like, just throw that together, right? So like, I'm like this skinny kid from Utah, Oregon, like 18 years old, like tattooing like fucking drug dealers and sketchy ass
Yeah, yeah.
people, like in Houston, Texas. Like, I think it's like at the time it was like the fourth largest city in the United States. Like, not cool, man.
No. Oh
But hey,
man.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about like, how to deal with people, and like how to like navigate all that, and how to do a tattoo that is going to heal. Because if you do tattoos that don't heal like that on people like that, like, they're not psyched, and they're not just going to like complain, like, you know what I mean? They're going to be waiting for you when you leave, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, and from there, like, I left after a while. I was like, yeah, this isn't. I think I've learned all I can learn here. So I moved actually back to Oregon for a little while, and then ended up down in Southern California.
Oh man, honestly, that was so good. Some fun stories there. Like you reminded me of that shaky start when you first ever start. That some people, I've heard so many stories of tattoo artists, like over the past like 13 years. I think a guy called John Anderson, he had an apprentice called Michelle Madison, and
Oh,
she,
I love her stuff, man. She
yes, so
crushes it.
exactly. But every single tattoo she crushes. But not only that, her first tattoo was the cleanest, most insanely beautifully well
Right?
saturated piece I had ever seen. And I just couldn't believe my mind when I saw it, because my beginnings were nowhere near that. And not only that, I'd been tattooing for a few years, and I was still like,
Sure,
how
right?
is that going on? Like, I don't understand. So it's so weird how people can have really weird beginnings at the start of a career or a hobby. But people all, it's like humans, when they're born, they all just like grow at different, like, oh, my kid walks, oh well, my kid's still crawling, before you know it, the kid that was crawling is doing things faster than the other kid. Everybody walks at different paces, don't they, before they're running and then they're sprinting. I remember once, one of the first times I ever worked in a studio, you reminded me then, I got this job in this studio, and it was one of the first, it was the first studio I worked in. And we walked in, and what happened is I woke up in the morning. I was like, right, no, the night before I was like, right, tomorrow I've got a few tattoos in. This is it. I'm gonna start. This is it. I'm so excited. So I woke up in the morning, I had to get 2 buses and then a train. Okay, I missed the first bus.
Oh God.
Job fucked.
Got
Just
it. Yeah.
completely job. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, oh. So I'm sweating straight away. I'm on the
Right.
bus to catch the next bus, and then
Right.
I just get to the just get off the bus, and I could see where the train is. The train's there, and it was one of those, Ty, where you're like, right, okay, go and get it. As I'm running towards it, it just goes. So I had to
Right.
wait again. So I turned up an hour late to this, like, it was a studio, but it was a place called Zodiac. So it was a place that sold like like alchemy type stuff and all that kind of thing inside.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And I tattooed in the back, and I was just doing all these kind of stuff. So I turned up, and the first thing I did there was a name. So it was only like a really poxy, tiny little name. And at the end of it, it went off into the stem of a rose. And I remember it, and I will never forget it, probably till the day I die, because I got there and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Honestly, I really didn't. I can't even begin to like lie about it. I didn't have a clue.
Isn't it crazy, man? Like,
Yeah.
I could. Yeah.
And the first time it was on a neck. And even now, I could probably say to you, what's probably one of the hardest places to tattoo? And you're going to say, oh man, necks. Even
Dude,
though you,
next, dude, I do a ton of them and they are miserable. Like, I love it afterwards, right? Like
yeah.
post tattoo, necks are awesome, but during it is. Ugh. But anyway, yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. So you can imagine, I have no idea about what I'm doing, and I have to tattoo an neck. So I don't know how to stretch it. I don't know what, I don't even know how to set a liner up properly. So I go in and I start to do it, and I was just like, it just wouldn't go in, man. It just wouldn't go in. I tried once, I tried twice. And by the third time I'm trying to go through it, you can imagine what the skin's doing. It's not enjoying itself. So I'm trying to put it in,
No.
and I just had to just be like, I was sweating, and I just had to be like, listen, I'm gonna have to ask you to come back. We'll do it. Are you free next week at some point? I had to try and talk my way out of it. And I remember when she left, she was okay. I've never seen her since, but she was okay about it. But I sat back, and I was, and she went, and the door shut, and I was sat in that studio, and that was like the point where it was like, I could just go home now and go and get a job. I could just leave this now. That was intense, but it didn't put me off enough to like just not do the job. I wanted it so badly, and I think you can attest to that with what you said. Early beginnings, tattooing people that you were scared if you didn't get it right, they'd beat the fuck out of you. It's like one of them things where you're like, I've got to get this right. I've had that a few times at the very beginning, intimidating people, it's weird. But then the more confident you get, and the more tattoos you do, and the years pass by, and now you're so accomplished in what you do, like the confidence helps so much, doesn't it? Like, not in the technical
Sure.
aspects of things, but just the way you approach any customer. You're not going to take any shit. You're not going to, like, look, listen, I don't have to tattoo you. But back then it was like, whatever you want, I'll do it for you,
But like, I think that that's awesome that you were faced with that choice of like, I, this didn't work out. I'm, embarrassed. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm confronted with this tidal wave of like, the fuck do I do? Right. But like, you decided to be like, no, I want this. Like, I'm going for it. And like, dude, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that that definitely speaks to your character as a person. And I think that that is why like tattooers like yourself you'll be doing it till you're dirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll be like Rick Walters, like you'll be the guy that is doing it until you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, like I got a funny story about that guy. The first time I ever met him, he's like, man, I got beard hairs older than you. Like, you know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's awesome. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
That's a cool story though.
yeah, man. It's funny. I think we've all got. There'd be so many people listening to this that have got crazy stories. If any tattoo artists are listening to this, I'm sure you can, attest to having many stories about when you first started doing it. Unless you were Michelle Madison and you were just smashing it straight away.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I wish I was. You know what I mean? Like that's why, like I was saying, like earlier, whatever. Like if I wish I had done like that. You know what I mean? Like went up to whoever and what they were able. Like I don't know. I was able to get that apprenticeship and get set down that trail early on. That would have been great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm happy. I love my life. I love where I'm at. You know what I mean? So like, I don't regret any of it. So
No,
yeah,
no regrets. That's life, isn't it? You can't really regret
yeah.
anything. So yeah. But what happened? So what happened from that point onwards? Then, so you got into it, and then what, man? Because if anybody knows you, or if anybody doesn't know you, you are such an amazing bioorganic tattoo artist. Like,
Thanks, man.
and I think everyone will agree on that. Like, but what was it? You already kind of pointed towards it a little bit with Guy, but was that the first real thing that stuck out to you? You like, you'd seen tattoos before, but then you see guys working, you're like, whoa. Because I know for me, and we spoke about it with Marcus, it, it was for me. I remember just seeing the first one was the back piece he did on Carson Hill.
Oh
The
yeah.
yeah, and it was like, whoa. I think it's on the front of Organica. Is it? Is it on the? I think so. Oh no,
No,
no, it's not.
it's on the back like cover, like on the sleeve thingy.
That's
Like
right.
it's like this big on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, whoa. And even then, you look at it so small. Look at it so far away, and it's so readable. And I was like, whoa. And then,
That's a little tattooer trick, or not even a tattooer trick. That's an art trick, like drawing your compositions as thumbnails. If they
yeah,
look impressive this big, it's going to look crazy, just as good, and so much more readable on a larger scale. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's just a credit to like that dude's talent, you know.
yeah. Is that what led you on to? Because you obviously did a lot of tattoos to pay the bills and
Yeah,
get to the point that you wanted to. But was that the genre that really struck with you?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean for me it was like seeing those tattoos and like I saw like you know Paul's stuff, and then like I really got into like uh, Nick Baxter's work, and
Yeah.
then like Carson Hill and like early like Nico and Mike DeBris stuff. You know what I
Uh,
mean? And like I was really impressed with it, but more like Baxter's and like Nico and those guys. It was more like the technical aspect of how they work, not so much the vision, if you will. Guys, and same with Paul, like it was more like how they were able to do it, like
yeah.
how well it was rendered and things like that. But like guys stuff and like other people like him, like it was just it was specifically like how the art was like rooted in nature. Like
Yeah.
you could see where he took direct influence from like a piece of tree bark or a leaf or some shit. And like Nick was doing some stuff like that too, but it was just different. You know what I mean? And like, I was my first exposure to it. So it was just like, okay, I want to understand how to tattoo, like how to do nice tattoos. And because at that time, tattooing, the temperature of tattooing was very different. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was super hard to even get your foot in the door, let
100%.
alone there was like a handful of people in the world that were doing custom work that was like whatever they wanted on a massive scale. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so Guy Aitchison, you know, people like that, like Paul Booth, whatever, they were like rock stars. They were just like names in a magazine. You know what I mean? Might as well be Tom Cruise or some shit. You know, you're never gonna meet that dude. You're never gonna reach that platform, right? But I definitely wanted to do it in. I wanted to do art in that same vein. You know,
Yeah.
like I've always tried to create art that I want to see and that I would wear or I would put on my dad or my sister or something. You know what I mean? Like not ever just like, yeah, phone it in, like whatever, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think and what you said's right. You've got to make something artistically that you would wear. It's hard because some of the things is so feminine you wouldn't wear them, but it's to the point of like you've put so much of your heart and soul into it as an artist that you would proudly wear it because you believe it's the best you can do as an image. I think that the hardest thing for me in sense of like bio when I first ever started when I first saw people doing it, there's a person as well that I saw. All the names that you said were the names that influenced me when I first started. But there's Nate Costeco was doing some stuff as well,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, and I was just like, but he doesn't do any of that anymore, like none of that
Oh,
anymore. But he was heavily influenced by Nick Baxter, and I would just look at
yeah.
all that, and it would just boggle my mind. And then I found, you know, the organic aspect of it was way more my approach. I really loved doing organic things as opposed to the mechanical side of things. Cause like, I think even Marcus says like, I realistically really find mechanics hard. Like it, and it's probably the most requested, you know, like as a bio artist yourself, I bet you get tons of people like, yeah, for sure, I want you to do like some cogs on me that are ripping out of my skin. I get asked that so many times, as opposed to like, I want you to use an oak tree and you just go for it, man. Anything else in between, just make my arm into an oak tree, you know, or something like that. You know, it was
Sure.
never, I was always asked for mechanics because you it's the same with you. You're so organic and you can just tell with everything you're doing, like your sketches. You know, there's very rarely any mecha inside there. There's no anything like that. It's all just organic. Was that something that as well because you saw guys working? So that's because you say that's what pulled you towards guys work. His organic approach and textures. Was that something that was like that you decided, you know, like I don't really want to do much mech, you know what I mean? Was it just
Uh, you know, like it's interesting. I noticed it actually a lot when mostly when I collaborate with Guy, whether it be
right? Yeah.
painting, drawing, or tattoo. He tends to add more like mechy stuff than I do, which is weird. Like, you know, we're passing a sketch back and forth or whatever. Whenever I get it back, there's always a lot more repetitive things.
Right, yeah.
Um, and I get influenced by that to try to add more of a repetitive mechanical kind of vibe to things. I think because people just love that, and it is artistic. Like, not art. It's just pleasing to the eye to see that. You know,
Yeah.
people do really like that. I have some ideas to like grow into doing, you know, broadening, you know, my range a little bit by doing more mechanical type stuff in a specific way. I don't feel quite up to snuff with where I want to take it just yet. That's why I haven't really tried to push it on people. But yeah, I think that there are some people out there that do some really cool mechanical stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that it's a language that really speaks to them. You know, like Mike Cole does it. He doesn't even really do mech. It's like Mike Cole stuff. You
It's
know what I
Mike
mean?
Cole.
It's like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
world all its own, you know, but
100%.
it is very rooted in like angular geometry and stuff, right? And then there's like people like Adam France who have very like robotic style to them, or like
Yeah.
Roman Abrego or whatever. And even some of Marcus's early stuff, you can see he was, I think he was influenced maybe by like, I don't even know, like maybe like transformer type. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know much about that world, like that art world, but like now it's something completely. He's evolved his stuff light years from where that was, but like
Yeah.
early stuff was like that. So I think that that's, I think that there's room, of course, for people that want stuff like that. It's just not, for whatever reason, it just doesn't speak to me the same way as, obsessing over trying to make, a rocky texture look rocky, or like cracked desert, look cracked,
I
or
agree.
whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think whenever you see mechanics done really well, it's just so, because it's done really well, it is very visually pleasing, and it does look amazing when it's done, but it's just super hard to achieve. But I do like the idea of texture. That's the thing about that makes the organic approach really inviting to do as an artist, is because of the texturing aspect of things. And that's something that Guy brought forward and stuff like that, and seeing the way he would do that even in his paintings, or like Alex Gray or people like that would do, where you're just like, what, the level of
Yeah.
detail. And what like when you're, a question I wanted to ask you as well, like when you go searching for reference, or whenever you're using reference to create a sketch, or or when you are tattooing in general, what is it you look for in a reference to take to a sketch? It's a very difficult question to answer, but I give it a go, man. Like, what do you look for in a reference to create in your shapes, in your bio?
Honestly, I kind of look for. I spend quite a bit of time hiking and camping and stuff like that. Like I'm, and everybody's got a phone on them, right?
Yeah.
And half the time, you can bring like DSLR or whatever. But what I'm looking for is typically something that's an interesting shape, the way light is hitting it at that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like you would be looking like through a portfolio or through an art gallery of just something that catches your eye, and like 10 steps down the trail or the side of the mountain or whatever, you're going to see something else. And I've got, I couldn't even tell you how many like just random photos of stuff. And I definitely have my comfort zone where like, if I'm just not really going to use reference and somebody just wants, sometimes I get clients that email me older tattoos that I've already done. They just want that, something like that,
Yeah.
something in that vein, And so it's a default setting. It's real quick to just be like, oh, okay, you want spiky stuff with bumps all over it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this job is, it's customer service. You got to
Yeah.
give the people what they want.
Your
You know what I mean?
commission
That's what they're here for.
Yeah, for sure. It's a commission based like artist job, isn't it? I think I said that to so many people, like like the idea of is like a go home and sketch things for myself. But we are commissioned to do things. That's why 9 times out of 10, I end up doing realism, because people just want that. Like there's not many people in the UK. There's just such a niche group of people that do want bio, and it's kind of like a constant thing where I have to fight to try and get people to want it. But yeah, it's hard. I think with yourself, I think even so many years ago, I'd seen you do a collection of pieces, and I was like, I want you to do something based on coral. And I think that's the idea, is if like with a bio artist, you just got to pick a texture or something in nature that speaks to you, whether it's a tree, a leaf, an insect, or anything, and pick that out and just let the person just create then. And then you've got to kind of, like Jeff Gogway says, you've got to surrender. You've got to give them the idea, and then just be like, and I'm just going to be happy whatever you do, and I think that's the way I was with you. I want this, do your thing, make yourself happy. And I think that's what people should expect to do with tattoo artists. They don't know. I did get a lot of people that how do you explain it, would want to be hands-on, like, and you get different kinds of people, and those people that it's weird though, Ty, because I find that sometimes people that do that, they can create pressure on you that like can create a gem of some sort. You know, like sometimes you're like, man, just in your head, you're like, just fuck off, man. Like it's just too much. You're asking for too much, but you're trying to be nice. But then sometimes somebody can push you so far that you're like, I really like that actually. You know,
Sure.
sometimes it
Yeah.
really helps.
I, I think that, like to speak to biomech specifically or
Hmm.
bioorganic or whatever you want to call it, like, man, it is a niche market of a niche market. Like, it
Hmm.
is not like, I tell, like, I get hit up by people, younger tattooers or whatever, all the time. Like, how do I do more bio? All these questions, and to be honest, I I suffered quite a lot of years, um, not working that much, trying to push bio, like trying to lean more on doing more biomech. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing to break through to where that's all I do anymore. You know what I mean? So I, I honestly think that, like, it's better to be able to be, more versatile, just so that, like, I mean, when you get the opportunity to do something that you love, like if biomech is your thing and you really want to do that, like, man, do your best to push it, and get more people in your chair that want it, or buy your paintings or whatever. But, like, don't be afraid to do something else. You know what I mean? To keep the lights on, for lack of a better word, and I forgot what the other part you were
I,
talking about.
I do no, I do agree with that as well. I think people need to hear this. I think whoever's listening to this, they definitely need to hear this. If you're trying to push bio, I made that. You definitely made more of a push, 100%, because you're so talented in that genre. But I was like, I was trying for ages, and you get the random human that would come up to you and just completely be on your wavelength. But 9 times out of 10, they weren't. And it is a job at the end of the day, and you do need to earn your money. So and it is a super enjoyable job, whether you're doing a stag or whether you're doing whatever. If you put your heart and soul into it, it's equally amazing. Or a bird, or skulls are amazing, like, or anything like that. Anything that you take on that's not bio is just good fun anyway. So and it makes your, whenever you come to render a bio tattoo, um, it makes it better because you've learned more of that skill, of tattooing. Yeah, I definitely think people need to hear that. You can't, like, you went for a period of, like you say, not really working that much, and just taking on bio work so you could kind of hopefully just do bio. I think that only works with a certain group of people. But even then,
Absolutely.
even like, but guys, probably one of the people that's the anomaly the most. Not only that, there's a risk, isn't there, nowadays, of anything that you see someone post on their social media account, that's all they do. But not necessarily all the time. I speak to a few tattoo artists that just share what they want people to see. Like, yeah, that you might work every day, but you don't share everything you do every day. You just share like what you want people to see, in hoping that bottlenecks people to get what you want from them.
I think that I think that I mean, I can't speak for the UK, but I can speak for the United States, and I think that the social media has replaced a portfolio
Yeah.
in a sense. So, you know, back in the day, like, all these, you know, guys would tell you to just put the things in your portfolio that you want to do the most of. So that's essentially what social media is. So, like, you know, if you want to do more bio, only post bio, but just be ready to, only a certain amount of people are going to want what you have to offer. You know what I mean? And I think that you just need to be happy with that if that's all you want to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, oftentimes those tattoos that may not be in your comfort zone or even your wheelhouse will can later, your communication and the relationship you build with your clientele can change, right? It's just like back in the day, it was, you might do that name with a rose on the side of a
Mhm.
girl's neck, right? And,
Yeah.
but she had a good experience with you, right? She liked you, you guys got on good, like she liked her tattoo. And she comes and gets another tattoo, and maybe it's still not quite what the stuff you want to do, but then I don't know, she sees something, that a painting or something that you're working on, or a sketch that she really likes, and but it's this bio thing, and you're able to get her interested in this other type of work, and because she appreciates your work and wants to support you as an artist, she falls in love with a genre of art that she didn't even know existed before, and is now proudly wearing some crazy concoction that on her arm or whatever. You know what I mean? Like things like that happen all the time. So I think it's good to be able to do other styles and do other things that maybe maybe it's not the thing you want to do, but it's a great way to connect with people and get them in the door.
Yeah, man. And it pays its dues, doesn't it? Like you say, like it gets to a point where, you like you say, you do. I've had that so many times that it normally comes from a cover up, Ty, like somebody gives you a cover up, you do the cover up, and then they're like, okay, man, now you've done this, I want you to do my whole back. Or like, I want you
Right.
to do this on my leg. And then a lot of the time I will find people are like, they'll give you something that they want, and it's a cover up or something like that. And then the next session, because they enjoy being with you and you're a good person, etc. You're not negative, you're not a bad person. They are ready to just surrender again and just be like, what do you want to do? Like, or they'll give you something. I like skulls and roses. Do you think, what I mean? And again, you're like, okay, well, I've got like a vision there and I can do what I want, and that's where doing the small, tiny things, or the things that's not bio in a certain sense, pays its dues. It definitely does.
And
You're right.
you definitely want to cultivate, I think, clients like that. Like I would rather have 10 clients that are super awesome and really easy to work with and you get along well than 100 clients that don't.
Yes.
Like I would rather, like, if you guys can't, if you can just see that the next 10 hours or 50 hours or whatever with this person is just going to be a nightmare, like don't take the years off your life, man. Just tell them you're not the man for the project. Like there's a ton of good tattooers out there that maybe they're going to vibe with better and they're going to have a better experience with altogether. So I know it's a hard thing to do, but in I think it is also important to just kind of, shitty as it sounds, like weed customers out. Like if it's not
Yep.
somebody that is, you know what I mean? If it's gonna make you turn gray overnight, like fuck it, man. Like I would much rather tattoo somebody like you who's like, hey man, yeah, it's cool. Like I want some coral looking stuff. Make it nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That's the idea, like, and the benefit of, it's so hard not to sound pretentious. It's definitely not coming across wanting to come across pretentious, but it's what you do when you establish yourself. You get to a point where you're like, no, I'm not doing that for you. Like, or like, no, I don't think I can do that. Whether it's a controversial tattoo or it's something that you just cannot be bothered doing. Like, you have no passion for it. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly, I don't know, actually now I might, but
Right?
I know exactly, if I wanted to do a big, like tribal tattoo, I might say yes to that now. But I'm not going to get up in the morning and be eating my breakfast and having my coffee stoked on the idea of doing some tribal tattoo or something like that, or some lettering of some sort. I'm not going to be stoked on that, so I'm not going to book that in. And but like, I've worked on people that have let me do loads of stuff on them, and then they throw the curveball of, and now I just want a chess piece with just lettering, and you're like, oh dude, like, that's not me. You know that, don't you? And they're like, no, but I want you to do it, man. I think you do a really good job. And you're like, oh shit. You know, I've had that
But
with
that's where it's amazing too, is because there's somebody out there that is the fucking man for that. Like
yes.
that's like you go, I know this dude, big knees, he's awesome, super good dude. Like hit that fool up, he'll crush it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or whoever. That's where like I think that us as a community, um, I feel like I don't know. Sometimes I see it, sometimes I don't. So I don't know if it's getting better or not. But I think we should be a little bit more, a little quicker to recommend somebody else that is the man for that job. Like, oh, I want you to do, like, people sometimes will ask me for realism stuff, and I'm like, I mean, I could do a nice realistic tattoo and it's fun. I wouldn't want to jam my day with it, or my, fucking schedule with them. But like, I'm like, dude, like Evan Olin is awesome. Like, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or like Nico Hurtado, or like any of those dudes, like they crush it. Like, don't get it from me. You know what I mean? Like, get it from them. Like, they're gonna kill it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had that. I've had that, man. I've definitely had that. You know, like like people asking for a. I remember. Do you know what? I did it with one guy, and he. I've done that though. I've done that where you send people off, and you're like, I know there's New York's in the UK. He works in Hull, and then there's Henri Straum, who generally just does like realism now, but his lettering is just sick. He did Isla's name on my neck, and then he did my son's name on my head. Um, and he's my favorite. But his realism now is so quirky and crazy that that's what he's become known for. But you pass people, I will pass people to other people to do their work. One guy did came back like a boomerang though. You know, I was like, I did all of his neck here realism, and then I was like, oh man, I can't. He's like, I want some writing here, and I was like, dude, I can't do that. I'll find someone. I gave him a few people to go to. He didn't choose any of them. He approached some other guy, and this guy was a super letdown. He apparently booked him with him. He turned up. He canceled the appointment without telling him. So he was tattooing someone else when he turned up. So he rebooked the appointment, gave him the benefit of the doubt, and then just before he was about to go to the appointment, rang up and canceled the appointment. So I was like, oh man, I said to him, how's everything going, man? You know, like, because we were gonna do this, and then he was gonna get this, and we are gonna continue around here. And he's like, dude, this guy's let me down twice. And I was like, well, come on, man. Well, I think I could do a good job of it. You know, I think I can do a good job of it. So I just, and you know what? Again, one of the situations, I felt like I did a good job of it. I felt like I was like, right, what do you want? You know, and I took
Yeah.
it on board and I spent time drawing it. But even then, when I was drawing it, it just wasn't as organic as some of the things I draw, or a realism tattoo, or some bio tattoo, or anything like that. It just wasn't. So it was a tough process, but sometimes it can pay its dues, man. It really can. You're right, though. You're right. 100%. Any artist out there, they should pass it on, man. You know, it's past the parcel. You don't want to do that tattoo. You definitely know someone that can do it better. So just pass it on, man. You know, like, you respect the human.
Yeah, I think that if if you know somebody that's, a good tattooer and who isn't gonna flake on people and treat them like shit, like,
Yeah.
but they have a passion for lettering or tribal or flowers or whatever the deal is, and you just know that they're better suited to crush this than you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like you owe it to the client to be like, yo man, like, you should get tattooed by, Michelle Madison. Like, she'll crush that shit. Like, don't, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll do it if you can't get in with her or whatever the deal is, and you just have to have it or whatever now. But if you can, man, like, go that route. I think it's
Yeah,
good karma.
definitely, man. Definitely. So when did you, because one of the things about you, brother, is I I fucking insanely love how smooth and beautiful your oil paintings are. Yeah, I mean, you primarily use oil, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried acrylic. It is not for me.
Yeah, it's weird because they seem so similar, but they're just not at all.
No.
No, but how do you? When did you start painting? Because I fucking love your paintings, man. So when did you
Oh, thanks.
start doing that? Was it something you did before you started tattooing, or did tattooing inspire you to start it?
Tattooing inspired me to paint. I did my first paintings with, I don't know if she's still around. I haven't seen her in ages. Do you remember Claire Reed?
Mm-hmm.
Claire
Yeah.
was the first person I
Wow.
ever painted with. Yeah. I
Wow.
haven't seen her, I don't think, since then. Yeah, but she did a guest spot. I used to work for John Montgomery. He used to
Okay.
own
Yeah.
all of Prima Ink and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She did a guest spot there, and she had paints with her, and we ended up painting one night, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I started painting a little bit from there. I painted a little bit with Carson Hill, and then me and him actually drove up one summer to Gogwe's place up in Oregon. At the time, I don't think he still does it. I mean, this is, I think, 2008 or something. But like,
Yeah.
he used to do these like limited like weekend classes, like a kind of like a crash course into oil painting, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we went up there, and we both ended up getting tattooed, and then taking the seminar or whatever. And then, man, I've always just like kept up with it since then. Like, if I don't, it, it, I just find it's a good way to explore, you know, different textures, different things. Try to, mess with different lighting tricks or whatever. Just to make my art in general better. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is one of the mediums where you can do it any time when you can render something, you know what I mean? Like in any medium, whether you're sketching it with a pencil or digitally sketching or doing it with oils, I think it's always good practice because, like you said at the very, very start, your number one medium is tattooing. You know, it's weird, isn't it? How crazy is that your number one medium is needles and just ink? You know what I mean? It's like in a machine
Yeah.
that just puts it in. It's so strange, but like you get so comfortable working with those kind of like brushes to a certain degree that it becomes your number one medium, you know. But like you say, like any kind of rendering of something is always good practice, you know. I don't know, man. I think your oil painting has always struck me, whether it's bio or whether it's a skull or whether it's, you know, like any still life or anything like that, anything from the desert or anything. It always just stands out, man. It's so smooth, and one day I will own one of your paintings. But it's really nice. It's really good to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I do just like little ones as like studies. Like,
Yeah.
I know that like not everybody, oil paintings are expensive. Not everybody has, a grand to throw at a painting, so like I'll do these typically at conventions. I'll try to knock out like three or four little guys that are a couple $100 that people can pick up, and I'll typically just have them at the booth, and I just put them up on, on social media as like, hey, it's first come, first serve. That way it's fair to everybody. So like,
Yeah.
you know, you turn
Yeah,
up
definitely.
on Saturday and they're all gone. Sorry, dude. Like, I'm not favoring anybody, but yeah, I think anytime you do any kind of art that isn't, your chosen media, it's just tools in the toolbox. You learn more about, how to render something, how light it, how to light something, how to do more convincing lighting, or whatever you're trying to achieve. It's just a good way to study.
Yeah, like how to compose something as well, you know, like to
Yeah.
compose something. It's so weird for us as for us in general as well, because we, you know, I was trying to say then we compose things on flat things, and you know, like whether it's a piece of paper or it's a canvas or something. But you know, we generally what we're rendering things on is definitely not flat, and it's curved and it bleeds and sweats and all this kind of stuff. So it's so different, but it's still rendering things and making things fit. Whether it fits on a piece of paper, it will fit on an arm as well if it moves correctly, you know. So, and like your sketches as well, your sketches were one of the things that really inspired me. You were one of the first people. I'm sure there were people before, but way back in the day, you were one of the first people that was rendering things on, and I think this is a really good tool for tattoo artists or anything like that, or bio artists, rendering things on toned paper, whether it's gray or tan or anything like that. Because what I found was you can really, because you already have a mid-tone, like with the paper, you can really figure out shapes, bio shapes, etc. Figure out where you're going to put your texture, and then you can also like figure out where you're going to put your white highlights by using obviously a white crayon and stuff like that. I think that I remember seeing that, and that was something you massively influenced me with way back in the day, and that's something that's just never left me. Whether it's not even rendering anything that's bio, I'll be drawing a skull or something like. It's always just stuck with me. So like rendering things like that, it's always good practice. What was one of the things though, like that helped you? Would you say getting tattooed? Because like you've got quite a collection, but you've got a massive leg piece off Guy, haven't you?
Mhm.
Would you say, because it helped me, I got tattoos off quite a few different people as yourself as well, but one of my biggest learning curves, I got tattooed from a Brazilian guy called João Bosco, and he did my arm and several other pieces. But watching, he was heavily influenced by Philip Liu, and he got tattooed by Philip Liu. He got his whole back done, heavily inspired by him, and he really, really taught me a lot. Because at that point, I was getting tattooed. I was working out of a studio with a guy, and he taught me bits and bats. But I went to go and see this guy down in London, and it was the first one I'd ever really fully traveled for, and I'd sit there for 8 or 9 hours in absolute agony. But I learned so much. Would you say you learned a lot from getting tattooed?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first bio tattoos I ever got were off of Carson Hill and Nathan Costeco back when he did Biomax stuff. And yeah, quite like learned a lot about just everything, like how to be comfortable, how to make your clients more comfortable, where like I think you can learn a lot about that specifically, how to make the environment better so like people want to sit longer, how you can learn both good and bad things, right? Like you can learn
Yeah.
like this makes me uncomfortable. I don't like this the way this dude does this, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that or whatever. And then also lots of positive things. Like one of the best things about Guy's place is just where it is. Like it is such a beautiful place that it's very inspiring just to be there, And he's a very like take tattooing aside, like he's just an awesome human being.
Yeah.
So just who he is as a person, like if tattooing didn't exist, I would still be Guy's friend. You know what I mean? So that makes it a lot easier. But like, yeah, dude, the first time I got tattooed by him, it I threw it out there kind of as a like not thinking he was gonna say yes. Because
Okay.
like like I had his number and stuff, and like I would send him stuff I was working on. He would critique it, and he would kind of like, oh, try this, try that, like helping me out a little bit. And then I was actually having breakfast with Kelly Doty. We were like
Oh
at
wow.
breakfast, and we were talking about it. And she's like, just fucking ask him, dude. Like, what's the worst that can happen? He's gonna tell you no. Like,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
be a bitch. Like, just do it, And I'm like, all right. So I just threw it out. I was like, yeah, man, like I want to get tattooed sometime, that. And he was just like, yeah, he like threw out a date that was like 2 months away. And I was like,
Oh shit.
oh shit. Like, I was like, yeah, man, that's cool. Like, I don't even know. Like, you didn't know how much he charged, nothing. Like,
Oh
it was
my
like I just
god.
totally put my foot in my mouth. But it's like, the dude that inspires me the most. I can't go back now. Cat's
No.
out of the bag. So I started making arrangements, and man, I went out there and like,
Saving money. Like no, you're just
oh
like,
yeah,
oh
yeah, dude, I,
shit.
I had to I had to work a ton, and then like I would just kind of just wanted a piece off of him, and he quickly talked me into a leg sleeve. You know what I mean? And like uh then I started structuring like my whole like travels around like I would guest spot a bunch before my appointment just to pay for the session.
Yeah.
So like it was all structured like that, and like I can remember the first time I went out there, I hadn't been tattooed in like 2 years, and it's Guy, so I'm like mega nervous. Like I had to have my girlfriend at the time pull over. Like I thought I was gonna throw up. I was so nervous, you know, to
Yeah.
get tattooed by him. And like I got tattooed the first session, the first day. It was the first time I'd ever done 2 days in a row.
Oh
And like the
God.
first day was like 7 hours.
Oh.
And then like the next day I woke up. I learned a lot about how to like diet and everything, like how to
Mm-hmm.
like physically handle, like not just mental, but like the physical, you know, like how to handle like your prepare for your body to be able to handle the same amount of abuse the next day, you know, because like
Yeah.
that first time, dude, the second day I woke up, I felt like I ran over by a bus,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like texting him like, yeah, man, I'm not feeling great, but I'll be there at noon or whatever, you know, and like he was super cool, man. He was real cool about it, but I didn't last long. I only did like 3 hours the next time, you know, or that day, and so like it, I came the next session like with a vengeance. Like I am gonna do at least 6 hours both days, you know, and like I
Yeah.
counseled some other people on like how to eat and how to prepare myself for like, you know, that kind of like what you're putting your body through, you know, and like after that, each session I was able to sit longer and longer, and I don't know, like, you know, just like we got to be better and better friends, and like you know, I learned a lot, not only like how he tattoos or whatever, like little tips and tricks, you know, like I think that whenever you collaborate or whenever you get tattooed by other people, they do it different, they might do it the same, but they do it different, you
Yeah.
know, and like you'll like I think you'll like pick up things, and like sometimes I think it's good to like pick them up, try them. It might work for you, it might not. So like some of those things stuck, and some of them I'm like, that's not for me. You know, it just doesn't work. But obviously it works brilliantly for him. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think you learn a lot just getting tattooed. Like I learned, yeah, how to coach my own clients through 2 days, like how to I don't know, just I think just how to be a good host. Like he's just super fucking cool with you, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, you get that. I definitely have never met the guy, but you definitely get that vibe from him. You know, like again, it's. I think whenever bio artists are going to talk, you know, they're going to talk about him as if he is like the almighty, but he really, really is. Just everything that he's ever done for the industry in general, but just for the bio community is just unbelievable. I can't even say just for the bio community, it is for the industry, you know, reinvented a tattoo, etc. All of that is just unbelievable. But not only that, he seems like the most down to earth, spiritually centered, just awesome human, and just the type of
Dude, like
guy.
even on like a personal note, like you know, like he's counseled me like through personal stuff, like deeply personal stuff that
Yeah,
like shit that you wouldn't think like it's
yeah,
awkward, it's weird, you know what I mean? But like that's why I say like tattoo stuff aside, like everybody knows like how awesome he is, and he like tries to help not only the industry but like do good things for everyone, but like as a person, like he's just a good person, and he cares about like you know what I mean, like he cares about
yeah,
your well-being, and like he's not, I don't know, he's just not a dick, you know, like he's just I don't know, yeah, I think he's like definitely somebody to look up to for that as well, like he's just, I don't know, man, he's just a
yeah.
class act.
Yeah, it's always easy to be attracted to people like that. Like in just in general, like you know, uh, any human that you come across who's just got that vibe, you just instantly just want to spend time with them. That's why more people should be like that. You know, like treat people how you want to be treated, and just be a good
Absolutely, man.
human. You know, and not only that, he's just so fucking prolific as well. I don't think I've ever met like I don't think I no, I don't think I'm gonna say it. You know, we know tons of tattoo artists, but he is just so prolific. He is so prolific. He's constantly doing things. I think behind you, you have a painting of him there to your left.
This
Yeah,
one,
is that
yeah,
guy?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little
So
guy, yeah.
so I've got
And then
one.
this one's a one of Nick's.
That's an original, isn't it? The Nick one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's another dude. Like he's a little bit more low key.
Yeah.
Don't know really why, but like Nick is I've got to know Nick over the years in the same manner. Like Nick
Yeah.
is, I don't think he really gets enough credit either. Like he is fucking awesome, man. Like as a person as well. Like he's crazy talented as an artist. You know,
Yeah.
super driven, but like as a person, he's unbelievable as well.
Yeah, like as well as an artist as well. He's another one that's like I love how different his paintings are. It's so weird because he's gone on a journey with his tattoos, hasn't he? And you know, like he was so immersed in the texture, beautifully like beautiful biomech, and even his bioorganic, and even his mechanics are so impressive, you know, really, really cool. But then he seems to have just been like, do you know what? I think he seems to like struck a relationship with Jeff Ensinger and just been like, I'm just going to strip everything back and I'm just going to do like super readable, you know, tattoos that are, lines, black shading, or you know, well, he never just do that because he's so well versed in color theory. But just the idea of like everything's so traditional with him at the moment, I just love it. Some of the stuff he pumps out, but it's so crazy as well. Some of his thought process, the way he does things, and everything like that. He's definitely reinvented his version of tattoos whilst also still keeping it real with his like unbelievable oil paintings, like the one behind you. That's just incredible, you know, and seeing some of the things that he puts out. Like, did you ever get tattooed by him?
I did, yeah. I think, you know, in speaking of Nick, I've always said that Nick didn't have a style, like a style. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that Nick does Nick tattoos.
Right.
Like
Okay.
you can always tell when Nick has done a tattoo, and I think that, I don't know, I've always seen this in his work, is that I think that he explores like a vein, and then he moves to something else. Like even in his biomech stuff, like, or whatever, like for a while he was doing like all this like weird leafy stuff. Like everything was like a leaf, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever. And then it wasn't anymore. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it was something totally different. It was like he was doing like oceanic kind of stuff, but only for a hot minute. And then he was
Yeah.
doing like fleshy, gross, look like something out of an autopsy or something, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
he's off that, and then he's down the vein of like he's done some like super mechanical stuff. Like he did this one back piece that is just robot as shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he crushed it. And I think that Nick just, I think he just like wants to explore things, you know. And I think that if you were to approach him about like a super crazy biomech sleeve, like he's going to be like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that also he's not afraid to be like you're saying, like Jeff, where he's like, take that print or painting or whatever of Jeff's behind you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like Jeff can crush some super crazy realistic stuff, or he can do a traditional tattoo that looks like the traditional as, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
super, super traditional, you know?
Th-
And I think
yeah.
that kind of like what I was talking about before, like, I think that they just try to be more versatile. Like, I think maybe like since they've been maybe in the spotlight or whatever for a long time, that they don't want to be known for, I do this one thing. You know
No.
what I mean? Like some people are happy like that. Like I'm happy like that. I would absolutely rather just do biomech till I'm dust, but you know, not everybody is, you know.
Yeah. It's hard, man. I think I do. I'm. I really love exploring as well myself, just doing different things. You know, like there's definitely genres that I'm going nowhere near. But yeah, I think I'm like that a bit too as well. You know, I didn't even think about the correlation between them two. They're so similar, actually, aren't they? Yeah, I bought one of Jeff's prints that's just he did this series of skulls and that were unbelievable. And I just couldn't believe that he'd done them. You know, even when you get up close to that and you look at it, you're like, "Fuck, that's so nice!" Like he's rendered that so
Dude,
well.
I've seen that. I've seen that painting in person.
Oh wow,
I stopped by the studio one time when before he went back to a private studio in Austin, and I was actually on my way to get tattooed by Nick,
wow.
and I stopped in because I wanted to talk color theory with Jeff for a while. So he was nice enough to like, chat me up for a while, and yeah, that one was sitting on the easel, so I got to check that out in person, and yeah, dude, it's crazy like how
Yeah,
talented that dude is too. Like, and he's same kind of vibe, like super low key, but if you approach him, he's the nicest guy you ever met. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like just super super cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think artists that get to a certain level, they've got it. There's something that's thoughtful about them in general, anyway, isn't it? You know, like they spend so much time contemplating and like on their own. Generally, a lot of the time, creating certain things. They become so I don't know to a certain level of maturity as a human, and they're nice to be around to a certain degree. A lot of the time, you can come across people that are like very introvert and into themselves, but even then you get them in a different scenario or a certain scenario and they'll just come out and they'll be like and they'll be such a nice human to be around. Generally if you put them in nature or something like that, like you've done a ton of collaborations as well, and that's one things that I wanted to touch upon, because like collaborations, man, like it's so weird when you work on your own because you're in charge of everything, but like you've done some fucking you like you're talking about your influences, man, but you've tattooed with all of your influences, like uh including Phil Garcia as well, who's just one of
yeah.
the fucking most amazing realist artists out there, like
I
but then
fucking love Phil, man. He's awesome.
yeah, he
Love
seems
that
like
dude.
a
Yeah,
really nice guy. Yeah, he's fucking
yeah, he's cool.
unbelievable. But his work is so good, and the collaboration you did together works really well, you know. And then you've collaborated with Nick Baxter as well, and Paul Booth as well. Was that at a convention?
Yeah, uh, I can't. I'm sure everyone's heard like like same kind of thing. Like a legend. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like I've heard all kinds before this. I had heard all kinds of stories about Paul. Like I'd heard mixed stories about him,
yeah,
whatever. And that was just the only place we were going to be at the same place at the same time. You know what I mean? So that's why it worked out. And man, after meeting Paul, working with him, and getting to know him, like I cannot say enough good things about that guy. Like I think he's awesome. Like I don't know what he was like back in the day. I've never had to work for him or anything like that. So I'm sure, those relationships are different, but like what I can speak to is like I I just hit him up out of the blue. Like I know I'm good friends with Tim Boer, who used to work for him for a number of
yeah,
years.
yeah,
And so I was like, I had this idea. I was like, I want to tattoo with Paul. I want to see if I can finagle a collaboration with him. You know what I mean? And so I didn't want to sound like an idiot though. So I hit up Tim and I was like, hey, what's Paul like? Like, do you think he'd be down for a collab? And he's like, yeah, man, he's cool. Just hit him up. I'm sure
yeah,
he'd be down, or whatever. And yeah, man, it was super fun. Like we passed a sketch back and forth just to make sure like we could kind of vibe even on paper, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And then uh tattooing with him was just like we just drew that shit on with markers, and like we talked, and like I think the biggest thing with collaborations to be successful, in my experience anyway, is you got to have good communication. It's just like a relationship, right? Like you when you have concerns, you gotta speak up, or like if you
For
don't
sure.
know, like even like collaborating with Nick and stuff, like you tattoo the same but you don't tattoo that much the same. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's times like you can't be so, I think, I don't know, like you can't be so like afraid or like whatever to not be like, I don't know what you're doing over here, like what is this, explain it to me. Like you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
like, it's not about you. It's about it's about the client. You know, you're trying to create this like awesome piece of work. And so like, if like, I remember this thing with Nick is like, there was this one time he was just like, just magging in like a giant field of like black and purple, or like purple. It was like dark as shit. And I was
Like
just like,
purple concentrate, just really dark.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, well, like way darker than I would. You know what I mean? And like a massive field of it. And I was
And
just
you're
like, on
like,
this dude's
oh,
like,
what are you doing?
yeah. And I'm just sat there like, I don't, and you know, I'm like, yo, man, like, what are you doing? And he like explained, he's like, he's just like, so he explained, he's like, yeah, so like as this heals, obviously it's not going to be as dark, right? It's going to be lighter. And then we can use just straight black texture over the top of that as it, when it comes back healed, and it'll look further sunken back rather
Wow.
than just like, it just two steps ahead, right?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
just something that clicks in your brain. I'm like, oh, all right, cool, thanks. Off I go, right? So like, you know, it was the same thing working with Paul. Like, never met the guy, but like, he's super cool. And like, even though I'm like starstruck or whatever, like, I'm not trying to be intimidated, you know? Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, what are we doing here? Like, what do you think? I think this should be darker, you know, blah, 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 you know? And like, we crushed that chess piece in like 3.5 hours. The dude is lightning
What?
fast. Yeah, dude.
Really? Oh my God. It's so big. I can't believe that. Sorry. That's incredible. I honestly thought that was like, we did that over 2 days. He worked one day, you know, blah, blah, blah. But 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. And dude, he's cool, man. I still talk to him all the time, man. Like, I feel bad for like, you know, things with COVID and shit is like,
Yeah.
you
He's
know, his
just announced
shop
that it's
is,
shut now, isn't it? He's had
yeah.
to,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, we'll see what happens in the future. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put his business out there, but like, yeah, man. But like, dude, he's fucking awesome, man. Like, and
Yeah.
he crushes it. Like, and he's done a lot to help other people too. You know,
Yeah, for
like people grow
sure.
their careers and shit. You know.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely like the godfather of that genre of of tattooing. There's been so many people that have come after him that have killed it, but like there's always going to be them people that like that start it. You know what I mean? That start pushing it at the very start, and he was definitely one of them that did that kind of like textured horror, you know, like dark arts type, you know, like
Yeah.
theme. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But you talked before about layers with that, about the purple and putting the black into the healed purple concentrate in a certain sense because it'll heal lighter. I think one thing that you do as well, and a lot of people need to hear as well, people that listen to this that don't really understand the aspects of this if they're just listening to a tattoo podcast and want to know a little bit more about how we work or in that aspect. You work in layers as well, don't you? Explain to
Yeah.
why that seems to work for you. Like why isn't it not just a one? Why is it not best to just do a one-shot tattoo? Why is it best to layer?
I mean, I think that there are some people that can do like one shot, like Timmy B. Like, love that kid to
Yeah,
death. Like,
yeah,
he does every tattoo in one session and crushes it, and they look great. 2 years healed, whatever. They still look awesome, and that's great. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't do that. Like, I've picked that dude's brain probably to nauseum, and I still can't figure out how to do like an awesome one shot tattoo. Like, it just doesn't. I think that you got to play to your strengths, right?
yeah.
And like, I picked up a layering technique off of, I'd say like three different people, like Nick, Guy, and actually Nico,
Right, yeah,
um, who layered their tattoos. And I just think you get the best of both worlds. Now you have to have clients that understand your process, right? Like, that goes
yes,
a long, long way. But once you can make people understand that it's kind of like an oil painting, you're just trying to, day one, we're just trying to like get this thing committed to canvas. We're just trying to get the shapes on there and a basic understanding of value, like
yeah,
where the shadows are, where the lights are, where light's coming from on this thing, right? and then we're going to let this thing heal. You're not like pushing the skin to its maximum. They're getting out of the chair a little easier. About the time they're going, this sucks, you're telling them, all right, that's it. Add a little easier on the wallet, whatever. You guys can go have a beer or whatever you do, like lunch, dinner, whatever, and see you next time. Let that thing heal at least a month and then come back, and you're just refining it more and more each time until you get. I think that the positives from that are you're going to get hopefully more longevity out of the tattoo, you know, um, but you're going to get refined results, refined results that you can't get by, well, not that you can't, because Timmy's an example of you can, but like are much harder to get in one go.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why, like, I love the UK, but I really haven't been back, is because I adopted that layering process. I can't ask people to like, hey, I'll be back in a year, or fly to the States. You know what I mean? Like that's just too much for people. So, it works great for me. I'm sure it's not for everybody, but I do think that you get more opportunities to render something or build things up and make them, just refined in a way to like you would a painting that I personally can't do in one go. Like I don't have it.
Yeah, no, man, it's perfect. It's right. Like you said, there's anomalies out there. There's people that can render things in one go, and he's not really a bio artist. Although Timmy B really puts some crazy texture into his pieces. That's like, what the fuck? How did you?
Yeah, we've done collabs together, and like we've done some cool shit together, and vice versa. Like he's stepped into stuff I've done, and I've stepped into his stuff. Where like, yeah, you wouldn't think, but he's wicked talented. You know what I mean?
Oh my god, but like, so talented.
Yeah, like that dude just knows how to get away with it. You know what I mean? Exactly what to do.
Yeah, and like you said before as well. Like I definitely think that the way I'll say it to some of my customers is just like like I'm not gonna do a painting in one shot. Like every time I commit to start to do a painting, it's gonna take me. I'm gonna be coming back to the easel 3 times, 4 times until I know it's fully done. So with something that's going to last forever on somebody's arm that obviously ages as well, like you only get 2 arms, you only get 2 legs, you only get 2 feet. You're going to get to a point where you've got to kind of, like give it the respect and spend time, coming back to the person. We're not going to try and take all your money off you. It's not the point. We just want to get to a point where we're like, I'm fucking happy with that, and I think when people realize that, they're not going to be too bothered about spending their money. Any serious collectors wouldn't anyway. You know what I mean? Like any serious collectors wouldn't.
Well, and like I think that pigment isn't forever. It's just not. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people want to like argue that these tattoos need to last, and we do need to do our due diligence to try to make them last as long as possible. But there's so much of it that is out of our hands. You know what I mean? And I think with a layering process, you're giving it a really fair shake. You know what I mean? Like you're putting multiple layers of pigment into the skin with the best chance, of it. I hope that it stays that green forever. Okay. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like it is what it is. And I think that that's the best chance that you're ever going to have, really,
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. I think, with that, like you say, it is what it is. You can only do a certain amount. You can't spend forever on something. But I always think it's good when you're working on large scale work, because like a chest piece, or like or a full leg or a full arm or a full back piece, like you've just smashed some massive full back pieces, and you get the opportunity then, because you've got a customer that understands the process, that you can be like, okay, well, you say it's done when it's done, and whilst you're working on it, when they come back, you can see how that color has healed. So you might even not do a gradient, you might just do one bold color, and then you're like, oh, I can put, I can start working, a darker tone to add contrast, and you can see how things heal. I think it's always good to play with stuff like that. I kind of layer and don't layer and stuff like that. Some pieces call for different things, and then I'll go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I'll call for, there's certain parts where I'm just dying to do a one-shot piece. I'm dying to do a piece that's just like, I'm going to line this, I'm going to shade this, put my dark value in, and then I'm just going to put my color in. And I'm just dying to do that. So I go through peaks and troughs of like wanting to do different stuff,
I think that it's fresh on my mind. Like Nick actually talks a lot about that, about how problem solving for each tattoo. Like not every tattoo calls for this like massive layering,
Yeah.
undertaking. You know what I mean? And then some tattoos do call for that, and then others are like, yeah, we're gonna crush this thing today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what was that? What was the bit you were saying before that? I can't remember, man. Like you were saying something right before about
Oh, I can't remember now. I can't remember. I can't remember. Yeah,
uh,
I think it's something about, we'll talk about layering, won't we? But
yeah.
yeah, it's one of the things, man. I think there are different times to use that technique, and I think bio definitely lends itself to that. It's definitely one of the things that really lends itself to it, and you can see
Oh,
that.
I remember what it was. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
Uh,
It's okay.
I was gonna remember. Um, I think that something I learned also off of what I was gonna say about Nick is like he documents or did document like his layering process. I think it was meant for a seminar.
Oh, wow.
Like how like he documents like first layer, second, third, fourth, whatever.
Wow.
Um, and I stole that, and like that's like new clients, like that's how I kind of, I guess, keep their faith in the process. Like people that are, and I think that can go a long way for people that like don't know what this is, and they're, you're showing them, a way to tattoo that they're not used to, but
Yeah.
that's what this tattoo calls for, right? So like having other people that you've layered tattoos on, and then showing them like
Oh,
photos of like, this is the progress you can kind of expect. Obviously everybody's different, like as long as everything goes according to plan here,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like this is the next couple jumps you can expect if you come back for the second and third sessions, right? And
Yeah.
so they can see what their tattoo can be, rather than them losing steam and being like,
Yeah.
looks good enough for me, or whatever the deal is.
Yeah, like that's points towards, I watched it the other day, Surrender, Jeff Gogre, bring it back up again. And he
Yeah,
tries saying on there, the idea is that you've got to surrender to the artist, that they're not going to just drill ink into you constantly, for no reason at all. There's a reason behind it.
absolutely.
And you've got to trust that in the artist. And then not only that, it's like, you know, it's the process of it, isn't it? Like trying to get people to get larger scale work, like you said, showing the customer things if they haven't already seen it before. We spend a lot of our time, so many people ask me, like, who does your tattoos, or this and the other, and it's like, man, if you think you like tattoos, I fucking do it every day. I love tattoos. So like I collect my tattoos, and you can see they're kind of like, what? A lot of people are like, they don't really understand that. I do have to remind myself sometimes that there are people out there that don't see tattooing the
Ev-
way that I do,
I mean, we see people from all walks of life, right? Like you're going
Yeah.
to get the people that I think it goes a long way into like reading into like communication, and like and trying to understand who you're talking to, like, and
Yeah.
where they are in this journey of their tattooing. Like even back earlier when we were talking about like somebody coming in and not necessarily wanting what you want to do, it doesn't mean that they won't get there. It's just
Yeah.
that their exposure isn't there yet. You know what I mean? So like taking their temperature for like what their needs are. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they could totally come around to something like that eventually, but maybe it's not for them right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think definitely it is such a strange business to be in because you, like you say, you are working with commission based. You know, it's a commission based thing, so it is hard at times to deal with that kind of thing and explain your process and to try and say to them, look, I'm not trying to rape you of all your cash. You know, like
Yeah,
you've got to trust me. You know, yeah, and because it is one of them immediate things. You know, like when you're getting paid as an artist, you know, it's like kind of one of them things where you are asking for a certain amount of money when people ask you how much you earn an hour and all this kind of stuff. But you've got to understand, people have got to understand as well, like you put how much time and effort we put into this, you know, like it's a job I take home well, when I eventually start working, it's a job I take home every single night. You know, I'm working on it every single night, whether it's inadvertently as well, you know, whether I don't know, drawing anything else other than something I'm going to tattoo, you know. It's all right. It's all right. I just paused it. No, it's all right. No, I was just the headphones died there on time. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard, man. I think people need to understand that, you know, that there is a process to it. And if you can document it, that's such a cool idea. I think it's such a wicked idea for people to see, you know, like to present to someone, look, you like what I've done here? This is how I got to this, you know, and then they're more willing to spend their money and they're more willing to,
I think it gives them faith in
yeah,
in not only in the process, but you know what I mean? And I
yeah.
think that no reputable tattoo artist is trying to just needlessly take your money. You know what I mean? Like
No,
they care. I would argue almost more about the art than the person wearing it does. So,
100%.
and even the other side of the coin, like even if all they care about is their ego or whatever, they still want to put it on their social media. So they're still not trying to do a bad job of it, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
even if you want to look at it in the most negative context, like they're still not trying to like have that thing out there in the world being like, oh, this guy did it, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, dude, obviously we'll get back to work. We'll get back, hopefully we'll all be getting back to work soon, but how do you see it, man? Do you, in the next few years again, I think you're on a trajectory and you're just going to keep, I think seeing you go on your own trajectory and pushing out and constantly evolving in the bioorganic world is something else. Like, do you see yourself progressing any further with that in certain different aspects that you talk about in the mech? And also, do you have any grand ideas for paintings, etc., in the future?
I mean, I just want to I try to try different influences into my work,
Yeah,
just so that I have a little different sauce for everyone, you know, that strikes a chord in different people, you know.
yeah,
So just continue on that path, you know, and just making art that I would proudly hang in my home, that I would like to look at, or a tattoo that, you know, create a tattoo that I would wear or that like I would put on you, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And just try to keep, you know, just be a good person and, you know, be good to everybody that wants to get tattooed, you know, and hopefully, you know, build a connection with them, you know?
yeah. And drink good coffee. That's another thing that I wanted to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I love coffee, and you put the
It's good.
best coffee up, man. You put pictures up on your Instagram story, and I'm like, oh man, Ty, that coffee
Dude,
looks so good.
my friend Brian, was giving me like I used to be just like a black coffee, like you know, like anybody that knows me, I'm a pretty plain Jane kind of guy. Like I get super rooted in my comfort zone, and I don't try to branch out much, oddly. But he was like, "Man, you gotta class up your coffee." Like he was just like, "What are you doing?" And so I got hooked on um, what are they called? Cortados, which is like
Yes.
espresso, dude, and milk. I drink almond milk. I don't drink like cow milk. But like, dude, I and it's this whole quarantine thing. It sucks because like I haven't had one in so long, and like I
Yeah.
keep trying to like perfect it on my stove, and it is not the same. Like I've even hit up clients in France and been like, "Is there a trick to making this?"
No, I know what you mean, man. There's been just recently a Starbucks has opened back up, and it's not the best coffee, but it will do. And the drive-throughs open back up, and I did it today with my son. We were out doing whatever we were doing, and I was like, and I could see he was like, he was drifting. His eyes were starting to burn a little bit, and he was starting to fall asleep. And I was like, I'm fucking driving to Burnley. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go get coffee. And I got a big venti. And yeah, I think whenever I see that, it's always good because you always put in your artwork up and stuff, and then you'll put a coffee up. I'm like, fuck, Ty, that looks so good. That looks so good.
Dude, I wish I could. I might just have to, bite the bullet and buy an espresso machine because, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's not the same, dude. It's not
No,
the
it's
same.
not.
Like, there's a little shop around the way that, like, I'm a creature of haunt. Like, I was in there every single day, and then there's another one that's right around the corner from the shop. But, just trying to, like, respect my neighbor and not try to, do my part to try to not make this thing any worse. I've just been like, nope, making coffee at home for the last 2 months, and it's brutal.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming though. I think it's coming. I think it's coming. But dude, honestly, like, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much, and it's been wicked. Honestly, one of the best things about this podcast is getting a chance to reconnect with certain people, and you're one of them, man. It's been years since I last saw you, and we've grown so much in that part. So it's good to reconnect with you, man.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I appreciate you, like, reaching out to me and, like, getting this thing going, man. It's cool. And it's interesting, like, other people and stuff, like, they have podcasts and stuff, and it's like it's actually really taken off. Like, comedians and all these people have podcasts.
Yeah.
In the tattoo world, there's like, you're like one of the only people I know that has a tattoo podcast. Like, it seems strange that more people haven't jumped on it. So.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's one of the things, man. We'll just see how it goes, because I have ambitions for it, so we'll just see how it goes. But you straight away, I was like, I can get Ty on. Like, how good is it gonna be, man? I'm gonna be able to get Ty on. So thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Of course, man.
All right, take it easy, dude.
Yep.
Bye.